The cafeteria buzzed with laughter and chatter, but one girl's world was about to explode in an instant. A careless swing, a splash of scalding coffee, and suddenly, she was drenched, humiliated in front of the entire school. Gasps filled the air, phones pointed, whispers slicing through her like knives. Her eyes burned, but not with fear. Something else stirred beneath the surface. No one knew the quiet, unassuming girl standing there, trembling with anger, was more than she seemed. Beneath her soaked clothes and racing heartbeat was a force no one had dared to challenge. And in that moment, everything changed, because the girl everyone underestimated was a Taekwondo champion, ready to turn the tables in ways nobody could imagine. She had always been quiet, blending into the background, observing more than speaking. Moving to a new school was supposed to be just another chapter in her life, a fresh start. But from the first day, the subtle stares and whispered comments made her feel like an outsider. Cafeteria tables were already claimed, cliques had their territories, and she, a new black student in a predominantly white school, became an easy target. Teachers were polite but distant, unaware of the undercurrents swirling beneath the hallways. At home, she was different, a girl of fierce determination, raised with discipline and self-respect. Every morning before school, she practiced Taekwondo, honing her reflexes, her balance, her focus. She learned to control anger, to channel it into precision, and to turn vulnerability into strength. But at school, nobody saw that side of her. They only saw the new girl, the one who didn't fit, the one they could mock without consequence. Her parents had warned her about people who judged by appearances, but nothing could prepare her for the cafeteria that day. It wasn't just about spilled coffee. It was about the unspoken hierarchy, the small cruelties that made life feel heavier than it should for someone her age. Every glance, every smirk, every deliberate bump in the hallway was a reminder that she was different, and in their eyes less. Yet beneath her nerves, beneath the embarrassment that threatened to rise in her chest, a quiet resolve formed. She would not break. She would not let this define her. Every drop of humiliation, every sneer, every unfair glance became fuel for a strength that no one had anticipated, a strength that would soon reveal itself in a moment of reckoning. The cafeteria had barely settled after the coffee incident when the whispers began to grow louder. Some students laughed quietly behind their hands. Others shot quick, judgmental glances, and a few recorded the scene on their phones. She could feel every eye on her, every judgment cutting sharper than the scalding liquid that had soaked her clothes. But even in that chaos, she refused to crumble. She had learned early that anger could be dangerous if unchanneled, but focus could be transformative. The girl who had poured the coffee didn't seem to notice the storm she had unleashed. To her, it was just a prank, a funny spectacle to entertain the crowd. She strutted away, head high, laughing, unaware that she had triggered a force far stronger than embarrassment. The other students whispered among themselves, speculating on how the new girl would react, assuming tears or submission. They were wrong. As the minutes dragged on, the humiliation spread. Some students mocked her clothing, pointing out the stains. Others mimicked her every movement, attempting to amplify her shame. Teachers tried to intervene, but by the time they approached, the moment had already passed. And in those fleeting minutes of chaos, she realized something chilling. No one truly saw her. No one recognized her discipline, her resilience, or the countless hours she had spent perfecting her skills in silence. Yet with every insult, every sneer, her resolve only hardened. Inside, a controlled fire burned, a quiet voice reminding her of who she really was. Her Taekwondo training had taught her that the world often underestimated those who seemed quiet or fragile. Strength was measured not by noise or bravado, but by discipline, patience, and timing. Every laugh directed at her, every sneer aimed to belittle her, became part of the calculation. The humiliation was no longer just pain, it was fuel. By the time lunch ended, the incident had escalated beyond the cafeteria. Whispers followed her down the halls. Snickers echoed in classrooms. Some students had even shared clips online, turning her private humiliation into a public spectacle. It seemed unstoppable, an injustice compounded by indifference. But she remained poised, composed, and silent, like a storm gathering its momentum. And then came the moment that would define the day. A subtle challenge, an almost imperceptible smirk from the girl who had humiliated her, ignited something primal in her. This was no longer about spilled coffee or social hierarchy. It was about respect, about standing unshaken in the face of mockery. She knew what she had to do, what the moment demanded, and that quiet, controlled fire in her chest grew hotter, ready to be unleashed. The gymnasium was empty now, the echoes of lunch fading, but the tension from the cafeteria lingered like a storm cloud. She stood silently, every muscle coiled, every breath measured. The girl who had humiliated her walked past, smirking as if victory was already hers. But no one had prepared her or the onlookers for what was about to happen. A single, controlled movement, a shift of weight. In an instant, the quiet, underestimated girl became a force of precision and power. She executed a flawless Taekwondo form, her kicks and strikes cutting through the air with a grace that left onlookers frozen. Each movement was not just skill, it was a statement. Every inch of the floor, she claimed, was proof that strength could not be measured by appearances or popularity. The girl who had dumped the coffee staggered back, shock spreading across her face. Laughter turned into gasps. The students who had mocked her moments before froze, unsure whether to cheer or flee. In that fleeting electric moment, humiliation had changed sides. The quiet girl, once the target of mockery, now commanded attention, respect, and awe. Her every move radiated control and discipline, the very traits they had failed to see. And yet, she didn't seek revenge. She didn't lash out with anger. Each action was precise, measured, and symbolic, proof that injustice could be met with strength, dignity, and mastery. The spectacle was more than a physical display. It was a lesson in resilience, a reminder that underestimation is often the greatest misjudgment. The girl who had caused the chaos could no longer hide behind arrogance or cruelty. In the silence that followed, the cafeteria whispers were replaced by admiration, awe, and perhaps a touch of fear. No one would ever forget the moment the new girl transformed humiliation into empowerment, fear into respect, and judgment into understanding. The cafeteria had long since emptied, but the echoes of that day lingered in the halls, in whispered stories, and in the hearts of those who had witnessed it. She walked through the school with her head held high, drenched not in coffee but in newfound confidence. No one could erase the memory of the quiet girl who refused to be diminished, who turned humiliation into strength and judgment into respect. In the days that followed, the ripple effect was clear. Students who had once mocked her hesitated before casting judgment again. Teachers began to see her not as the new girl, but as someone remarkable, disciplined, and resilient. And while no one could erase the sting of the cruel act, the story of that moment became a reminder that strength is often invisible until the right time, and that courage isn't always loud. It's precise, patient, and unwavering. Beyond the school, her story serves as a universal message. No one should be defined by the cruelty of others. Underestimation can be dangerous for those who wield it, but for those who face it with dignity, it becomes fuel for transformation. Every insult, every whispered sneer, every act of discrimination is an opportunity to rise, to reclaim power, and to show the world that respect is earned through character, not appearances. Her journey didn't end with a single act of empowerment. It became a testament to resilience, a lesson in perseverance, and a symbol of how quietly prepared strength can overturn injustice. And while the cafeteria incident is just one story, it mirrors countless real-life moments where courage turns the tide, where the underestimated rise, and where dignity prevails. If this story moved you, taught you something, or made you reflect on the power of resilience, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who needs a reminder of their strength, and comment below your thoughts. Have you ever faced a moment where you turned humiliation into power? Let's start a conversation and inspire change together.